Welcome to Vale Marks, where we dive deep into the stories that move the soul and stir the heart. Life has a way of teaching us through the most unexpected moments, lessons in love, patience, and transformation. As the famous quote by Albert Schweitzer says, "The purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion and the will to help others." Today's story is a testament to that very truth. It's about a dog, once abandoned and broken, who finds his second chance at life through the unconditional love of a family. Stay with us to the end of this video, because what happens next will fill your heart with hope and show you that no soul is too far gone to heal. Bruce's story begins in the shadows of a life filled with pain and abandonment. A pit bull with a once strong, imposing frame, his physical appearance was a map of past suffering, scarred, bruised, and weathered by years of neglect. Bruce had known nothing but fear. His eyes, large and haunting, were windows into a past he could never escape, each glance filled with distrust and uncertainty. He had been discarded like so many others, caught in a cycle of abuse and neglect, used for dogfighting in underground rings, his only value seen through the violence he was forced to endure. For most of his life, Bruce's existence had been confined to the narrow walls of a small, grim cage. The once vibrant energy he might have had was dimmed by the oppressive life he led. The small pen where he spent his days was devoid of comfort, warmth, or kindness. He had no space to run or play, no opportunity to form meaningful bonds with others. His days blurred together, each one more indistinguishable than the last. Instead of human affection, he knew only the harsh commands of his captors and the roar of the crowd that surrounded his forced matches. His life, if it could even be called a life, was one of constant turmoil, a fight for survival in a world that had no place for his love, no place for his trust. Bruce's body, though strong, bore the weight of the cruel world he'd been thrust into. His fur, once glossy, was matted and thick with dirt. His muscles, though well-defined from years of being forced to fight, were marked by deep scars from countless battles. Every inch of his body told a story of pain, of a dog who had been pushed to his limits, made to endure the unimaginable. His teeth, worn down and jagged, were evidence of his frantic attempts to escape his small, confining cage, chewing away at the bars in a desperate plea for freedom. But the most telling sign of his torment was not the wounds that marred his body, but the fear in his eyes, the deep, haunting fear that never seemed to fade. Bruce had learned not to trust people, for every time he had, it had only led to more pain. Humans had been his tormentors, not his saviors. The idea that anyone could offer him comfort, warmth, or even the simple gift of love seemed like a foreign concept to him. He did not understand the kindness that might await him outside the cruel world he had known for so long. When Bruce was rescued and taken into the shelter, the change in his environment was overwhelming. Yet, even amidst the bright lights of the shelter and the bustle of other dogs waiting for new homes, Bruce remained distant, aloof, and utterly unsure of what the future held. The shelter, though full of people who genuinely cared for the animals, was still a far cry from the safety and peace that Bruce so desperately needed. The first days in the shelter were spent in complete isolation for Bruce. He didn't interact with the other dogs, nor did he respond to the humans who tried to approach him. His instincts, shaped by years of trauma, kept him in survival mode. Every hand that reached out to him was met with fear and rejection. Bruce had become accustomed to the idea that no one would treat him with kindness. The notion that he might one day be loved seemed too distant, too impossible. He had learned that when you trust, you get hurt, and in his mind, it wasn't worth the risk. In the shelter, Bruce spent most of his time curled up in the farthest corner of his kennel, his body tense, his ears flattened against his head. The noise of barking dogs, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead, and the constant shuffle of feet all served to remind him that he was still trapped in a world of chaos, a world where love and safety were nothing more than distant dreams. When the shelter workers would try to approach him, he would pull back, retreating even further into his small corner. Even when they tried to feed him, he barely showed interest. The food wasn't what he needed. What he craved, what he truly needed, was the comfort of human touch, the reassurance that someone would care for him. But Bruce had learned not to ask for help. He had learned that he had to fend for himself, that no one would be there to save him. Bruce had been broken by the system, by a world that saw him only as an object for profit, a tool for violence. The gentle touch of a human hand was a foreign concept to him, and every time someone tried to offer him comfort, it only served to remind him of the darkness he had been living in for so long. His instincts told him to run, to hide, to keep away from those who might hurt him. Trust was a word he had long since abandoned, and yet, even in the darkest corners of his soul, there remained a faint, fragile spark of hope. Bruce's past had scarred him beyond belief, but it had not entirely extinguished the possibility of healing. Deep down, there was a part of him that wanted to believe that there could be a life for him beyond the bars of his cage, beyond the violence and the fear. But that hope was buried deep, hidden beneath layers of mistrust and trauma. It was a hope that Bruce could barely allow himself to acknowledge, let alone believe in. For Bruce, the idea of a new life, of freedom, safety, and love, was something far beyond his reach. But little did he know, the very moment he was rescued and brought to the shelter, his life was about to take a turn, one that would slowly begin to change everything. Bruce's journey from fear and suffering to healing and hope had already begun, though he could not yet see it. His story had not ended. It was just beginning, and the promise of a second chance was waiting for him, just beyond the horizon. Anna and Jack had always been a warm and loving couple, sharing their lives in a cozy home filled with memories and joy. However, their lives had recently been cast into a quiet, sorrowful silence after the loss of their beloved golden retriever, Charlie. Charlie had been a part of their family for years, and when he passed away, it left a hole in their hearts that neither of them could fill. The house, once filled with the laughter of their furry companion, now felt empty. Every corner of their home reminded them of the joyful times they shared with Charlie, and every moment without him felt like a painful reminder of his absence. As the weeks went by, the loneliness grew harder to ignore. Anna and Jack found themselves wandering through their days, missing the companionship and comfort that Charlie had once given them. They both knew that they needed to find a way to heal, and the idea of adopting another dog began to take root. But this time, they both agreed. It had to be different. They didn't want a puppy. They wanted to offer a loving home to a senior dog, one who had likely faced hardships and been overlooked by many potential adopters. They knew there were countless dogs in shelters, waiting for a second chance, especially the older ones who often didn't get the attention they deserved. Their search led them to a local animal shelter's website, where they came across the profile of a dog named Bruce. There was a photo of him, a rough-looking Pitbull with soulful eyes that seemed to reflect a lifetime of pain and abandonment. His profile explained that he had been rescued from a dogfighting ring, his past marred by trauma and neglect. The description tugged at Anna and Jack's hearts. They could see the sadness in his eyes, and the thought of him being left behind in such a terrible state hit them deeply. Without a second thought, they decided that they would meet him. The day they arrived at the shelter was filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. As they stepped into the building, the sounds of barking dogs echoed around them. But Anna and Jack were focused only on one thing, the dog they had come to see. Bruce's kennel was tucked away in a quiet corner, away from the noise, almost as if he had already withdrawn from the world around him. When they reached his cage, their eyes immediately met his. Bruce was lying in the farthest corner, his body curled into a tight ball. His head was lowered, and his eyes were wide with fear. For a moment, Anna and Jack stood there in silence, simply observing him. There was an undeniable sadness in his gaze, an ocean of sorrow that seemed to reflect all the pain he had endured. His once proud stature was now diminished, and the weariness in his eyes was palpable. Despite his intimidating appearance, there was something vulnerable about him, something that spoke to the tenderness that still existed within him. But there was also a fear that was impossible to ignore. He did not move as they stood there, watching him. His body trembled slightly, and his tail remained firmly tucked between his legs, betraying his deep mistrust. Instead of rushing in and overwhelming him with gestures of affection, Anna and Jack knew they had to approach him gently. They understood that Bruce, given his history, would not respond well to any sudden movements or forceful actions. So they simply stood still, kneeling down to his level, their voices soft and calm. They didn't speak at first. There were no words to say, no promises to make. All they could do was show him that they were not a threat, that they understood his pain, and that they were there to offer him something that for so long had been denied to him: love and safety. As minutes passed, Bruce didn't budge. He watched them warily, his eyes flicking from Anna to Jack and then back to the ground. He was like a wounded animal, too afraid to move, too afraid to trust. Anna's heart broke seeing him in such a state. She wanted to rush over to him, to reassure him with a comforting touch, but she knew better than to push him too quickly. Instead, she reached out her hand slowly, letting it hover near the bars of the cage, offering Bruce the space he needed to make the decision to come closer. Jack sat beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder, his own heart heavy with the sight of Bruce's fear. They exchanged a glance, a shared understanding of the journey ahead. They both knew that it wouldn't be easy. Bruce had been through so much already, and it would take time for him to trust them, to trust anyone again. But Anna and Jack had already made up their minds. They would give Bruce the time he needed. This was not just about adopting a dog, it was about offering him a new beginning, a fresh start, a chance at the life he deserved but had never known. After what seemed like an eternity, Bruce slowly shifted, inching closer to the bars of the cage. His movements were tentative, and Anna held her breath. She didn't want to scare him. For a brief moment, he hesitated. Then he did something that surprised them both. He cautiously sniffed the air, his eyes locked onto Anna's outstretched hand. She gently wiggled her fingers, just enough to signal that she was there, offering nothing but kindness. Bruce, with great hesitation, extended his head toward her hand. For the first time, he allowed himself to make contact with someone. The soft touch of his nose brushing against Anna's fingers was a small yet significant step. It was a breakthrough. Anna's eyes welled with tears as she slowly stroked his head. He flinched at first, but then relaxed under her touch, a tiny wag of his tail signaling that perhaps, just perhaps, he was starting to believe in the possibility of something good. "We're here for you, Bruce," Jack whispered, his voice full of emotion. "We'll take care of you." In that moment, something shifted. Bruce might have still been afraid, but he had just taken the first step toward trusting them. It was a quiet, fragile beginning, but it was a beginning nonetheless. Anna and Jack exchanged a look of quiet resolve. They knew that this was just the start of a long journey. They weren't going to rush him, but they were certain of one thing. They would give Bruce the love he had never had, and in return, they would receive a companionship unlike any other. This was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for Bruce, but for all of them. A chapter where healing, trust, and love could finally take root. As they left the shelter that day, the weight of their decision settled over them. But there was also a sense of hope. They knew they had a long road ahead, but they were determined to walk it together with Bruce by their side. The first few days at Anna and Jack's house were nothing short of overwhelming for Bruce. The comfort of his new home, the warmth and care that Anna and Jack had prepared for him, seemed like a foreign world. They had set up a cozy, soft dog bed for him in the corner of the living room, the perfect place for him to rest and feel secure. But instead of jumping onto the plush cushion, Bruce did the opposite. His instincts, shaped by years of pain and fear, pushed him to retreat into the shadows. The soft bed, though inviting, became another symbol of uncertainty. He avoided it, too afraid to embrace the comfort that was now available to him. Instead, Bruce sought refuge under the dining table, curling into a tight ball in the darkened space beneath it. It was the only place where he felt some sense of safety, a place where the world could not reach him. His body was stiff, his eyes constantly darting around, taking in every noise, every movement. The sounds of the house, the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock on the wall, the opening and closing of doors, were all too much for him. Each noise made him flinch, his body trembling with anxiety. He didn't understand that these sounds were just part of a normal, peaceful household. To Bruce, every sound was a potential threat, a reminder of the unpredictability of the world he had once known. It broke Anna and Jack's hearts to see him so frightened. They understood, though, that this was going to be a slow process. Bruce had spent so many years in a world of violence and fear that it wasn't realistic to expect him to trust them overnight. Despite the comfort they offered, Bruce still lived in a state of constant vigilance. The trauma of his past weighed heavily on him, and every interaction, no matter how gentle, seemed to trigger his deep-rooted anxiety. When Anna tried to coax him out from under the table with treats or a soft voice, Bruce would only retreat further. His body language screamed his unease. He wasn't yet ready to believe that they were different from the people who had hurt him. As the days passed, Anna and Jack continued to give Bruce space, respecting his need to adjust at his own pace. They never pressured him, never forced affection on him. They understood that love and trust had to be earned. Slowly, they began to establish a routine, a quiet, steady rhythm that would eventually help Bruce feel more at ease. Every evening after dinner, they would sit on the couch together, quietly reading or watching television. Anna would occasionally call out to Bruce in a soft, soothing voice, hoping he would come closer. Jack would throw a few treats near him, not to tempt him, but to show him that these things were not threats, that food and love were not things to fear. At first, Bruce didn't react. He would stare at them from his dark corner, his eyes filled with a deep, cautious wariness. But over time, Anna began to notice small changes in his behavior. One evening, as the family settled in for the night, Bruce gingerly emerged from his hiding spot. His steps were slow, unsure, but there was something different in the way he moved. His head was slightly raised, his ears perked up just a little more than before. He didn't come too close, but he stayed in the room with them. Anna felt a small thrill of hope stir within her. It was a tiny victory, but it was progress. The following days brought more small steps forward. Bruce began to venture out of his hiding places more often, though he would still shy away if anyone made sudden movements. Anna and Jack continued their calm, patient approach, never rushing him, always giving him space when he needed it. They began to notice that Bruce seemed to relax more when they weren't looking directly at him. His eyes would soften, and his body would ease as he lay down on the floor near them, not quite close enough to touch, but close enough to be a part of their world. During these quiet moments, something incredible began to happen. Bruce started to seek out their touch. When Anna would gently call his name, his tail would give a small, tentative wag, a sign that he was starting to trust her voice. One evening, as Anna sat on the floor folding laundry, Bruce cautiously walked over to her. He didn't approach right away, but after a long pause, He nudged her hand with his nose. His touch was light, almost as if he were testing the waters. Anna's heart leapt in her chest as she slowly stroked his fur, her hands trembling with emotion. For the first time, Bruce allowed himself to be touched, not out of fear, but because he was beginning to believe in the kindness of human hands. Jack witnessed this moment from across the room, and his eyes filled with tears. He had always known that it would take time for Bruce to heal, but seeing this small act of connection, seeing Bruce begin to trust them, was a moment of pure joy. They had seen the fear, the uncertainty, and the heartache in Bruce's eyes, but now they were seeing something different. Hope. It wasn't perfect. Bruce still had moments of panic, especially when new people entered the house or when unfamiliar sounds startled him. There were still times when he would retreat into the shadows, his body tense, his mind unsure. But these moments were becoming less frequent. Anna and Jack had learned that healing wasn't linear. Some days were harder than others, but every step forward, no matter how small, was a triumph. They could see that Bruce was learning to trust again, learning that not all hands were meant to hurt him, that love was not a weapon. The first few days with Bruce were marked by a mixture of heartache and hope. Anna and Jack knew that the road ahead would be long, but as they sat together with Bruce in their midst, they felt a quiet sense of peace. Bruce was starting to come out of his shell, slowly but surely, and they were there for every moment of it. They had chosen to be his family, and now it was Bruce's turn to choose them. And in those tender moments, when he finally let them in, they knew that his heart was beginning to heal, piece by piece, just as their own hearts were healing in the process. It had been weeks since Bruce first arrived at Anna and Jack's home, and while there were small improvements in his behavior, the fear that had consumed him for so long still lingered. Despite their patience and gentle care, Bruce was still hesitant to fully trust them. He had started to venture out from his hiding places, but only when the house was quiet and the presence of others didn't overwhelm him. Anna could see that Bruce was starting to relax in his own time, but there was still a profound unease that clouded his every move. One afternoon, after spending some time thinking about how to help Bruce feel more secure, Anna came up with an idea. She had seen how Bruce responded to the familiar scent of Teddy, the soft, plush toy shaped like a dog. It was something that might offer Bruce a small comfort, something that could remind him of a friend, perhaps of a time when he had a bond with another dog, before the violence of his past had taken everything from him. Teddy could become a bridge, a symbol of gentleness, something to remind Bruce that not all animals, and not all humans, were there to harm him. When Anna returned from the pet store, holding the small plush dog in her hands, she could already imagine how this little toy might help Bruce. She was cautiously hopeful, yet she knew that it wasn't a quick fix. There was no magic in Teddy, but perhaps it could become something meaningful to Bruce, something that would give him the courage to take another step forward in trusting his new family. At first, Bruce didn't even acknowledge the new toy. As she set it down gently on the rug near him, he watched it from a distance, his eyes suspicious, his tail tucked low between his legs. It wasn't the first time someone had tried to offer him something to comfort him, and every other gesture had been met with apprehension. Anna sat nearby, her voice soft as she talked to Bruce, urging him to take a closer look. Slowly, Bruce approached the toy. His movements were cautious, almost calculated, as if he were weighing the risk of this new object. With hesitant steps, he got closer, his nose twitching as he sniffed the plush fur of Teddy. The soft scent of the toy was something new, something calming, yet Bruce's wariness was still present. He circled the toy a few times, his eyes shifting between it and Anna, as though seeking her permission to interact with it. Then, to Anna's surprise, Bruce did something she hadn't expected. He gently nudged Teddy with his nose, then slowly, deliberately, picked it up in his mouth. With a soft whimper, he carefully carried the toy across the room, his steps tentative but determined. He didn't drop it. Instead, he brought it to his safe space under the dining table and set it down beside him. Anna watched in awe, a lump forming in her throat as she realized what this moment meant. Bruce, despite his fears, had reached out. He had made the decision to interact with the toy, to take it with him into his sanctuary, which was a huge step forward. He wasn't just avoiding it or turning away. He had accepted it, if only slightly, and in that small act of trust, Anna could feel the first stirring of a change. Bruce had started to open up, even if just a little. Jack, who had been watching from the doorway, quietly walked over to Anna, his eyes filled with emotion. He could see the shift, too, and it was a relief they both desperately needed. This simple, soft toy had become the catalyst for Bruce to begin healing, to begin realizing that there was still kindness in the world for him, even after everything he had endured. Over the next few days, Bruce became increasingly attached to Teddy. He would often walk around the house with it in his mouth, carefully laying it down next to him whenever he rested. Sometimes, when Anna or Jack would sit beside him, Bruce would nudge the toy toward them, as if inviting them to join in his comfort, sharing his small token of trust. Teddy was no longer just a toy. It had become a symbol of Bruce's tentative steps toward opening his heart again. It was his way of feeling safe, of learning that there was something in this new world of his that could bring him peace, even if it was as small and soft as a plush dog. Anna and Jack noticed how Bruce's anxiety started to decrease with Teddy's presence. He no longer bolted at every noise or scurried away at every movement. Instead, he began to relax in their presence, even allowing them to sit closer to him. Slowly, the toy had become a bridge, a means of connecting with him in a way nothing else had been able to. Bruce, the fierce and fearful dog, was starting to trust again. It wasn't much, but for Anna and Jack, it was everything. Teddy had unlocked a part of Bruce that they had long hoped to see, the possibility of healing, the first real sign that Bruce could finally feel at home. In the quiet of those early days, Anna and Jack found themselves filled with hope. The journey ahead was still long, but with each small victory, each tender moment between Bruce and his new family, they knew they were on the right path. Teddy, the small, simple plush toy, had turned out to be the gift that Bruce needed most. A soft beginning, a symbol of his new life, and a reminder that love could heal even the deepest scars. Over the next few weeks, Bruce's transformation became more evident, and the change was nothing short of miraculous. The fearful, withdrawn dog who had once hidden in the shadows was now beginning to show signs of life and joy. It started small. At first, Bruce would cautiously interact with his plush toy, Teddy, nudging it around with his nose, carrying it in his mouth, but his movements were tentative. Yet each time he played even a little, he felt a bit safer, and his anxiety seemed to lessen just slightly. One afternoon, Anna decided to take Bruce outside into the backyard, hoping the open space might help him find some freedom. The backyard was a new world for him, a vast open space full of fresh air and grass underfoot, things Bruce had never experienced in his previous life. As Bruce stepped onto the soft grass, his paws sinking gently into the ground, his eyes brightened for the first time in a long while. He paused, unsure, sniffing the air and taking in the new surroundings. But then, something incredible happened. Bruce spotted a ball Anna had left on the grass. With great caution, he nudged it with his nose. The simple act of chasing the ball, a natural instinct for a dog, seemed to ignite something inside of him. His movements grew bolder, and soon he was running after the ball with newfound enthusiasm. Bruce barked joyfully, something Anna and Jack hadn't heard before. His tail wagged, and for the first time, he was embracing the joy of play, shedding the deep fears that had once held him captive. Watching Bruce play, Anna and Jack couldn't help but feel a rush of happiness. The dog they had once seen so fearful, so broken, was now running freely, experiencing a taste of the joy he had been denied for so long. It was as if the fresh air, the open space, and the simple act of play had unlocked something inside him, a spark of life that had been buried under layers of trauma. Bruce wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. As the days went on, Bruce began to interact more with Anna and Jack. He started to approach them more willingly, nudging their hands for petting or play. Every time they called his name, he responded with a wag of his tail, a sign that he was beginning to trust them more. Bruce no longer just tolerated their presence. He sought it. When Anna would pet him, he would press his body into her hand, eager for the attention. Jack saw the change, too, and it filled him with joy. He had always hoped that Bruce would learn to trust again. And now he was finally seeing it happen. Bruce's playful nature began to emerge even more. He would happily chase after toys, run around the yard, and even roll on his back in the grass as if laughing. He had started to recognize that play wasn't just a fleeting moment of happiness, but a way to connect with his new family. These were the moments Anna and Jack cherished the most, watching Bruce find joy in the simplest things, a game of fetch, a gentle touch, a happy bark. For Anna and Jack, witnessing Bruce's transformation was more than just heartwarming, it was life-changing. They had rescued a dog who had known nothing but fear and pain, but they had given him a second chance at happiness. With each wag of his tail and every moment of play, Bruce was showing them that love and patience truly could heal even the deepest scars. And as Bruce finally began to trust, to play, and to enjoy the life he so richly deserved, Anna and Jack knew that they had made the right decision to bring him into their home. Their family was no longer complete without Bruce, and every day spent with him was a reminder of the power of love and second chances. The day Anna and Jack decided to take Bruce to the park marked a significant milestone in his journey toward healing. It had been months since he had come into their lives, and though he had made tremendous strides, there was still a lingering uncertainty about how he would react to the outside world. The idea of a walk in the park had both excited and worried Anna and Jack. They had seen Bruce begin to trust them more, but the outside world, full of unfamiliar sights, sounds, and other dogs, could easily overwhelm him. Would he revert to his old fearful ways, or would he continue to blossom in the new life they had given him? On the morning of the walk, Bruce seemed curious but cautious. Anna gently clipped the leash onto his collar, and Jack led him out of the house, their voices calm and encouraging. As they stepped outside, the sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over everything, but Bruce, true to his nature, hesitated at first. The world beyond the front door was still a vast and unpredictable place, but with Anna and Jack by his side, there was a sense of safety he hadn't felt before. They walked slowly, allowing him time to adjust. The moment they arrived at the park, something incredible happened. Bruce stood still for a moment, his eyes scanning the open field before him. Then, as if realizing that the world was wide and full of possibilities, he took a tentative step forward. His body, once stiff and guarded, began to relax as he took in the fresh air, the scent of grass, and the sound of distant birds chirping. He looked at Anna and Jack, his tail wagging ever so slightly. The air was different here, free and open, and Bruce began to move more confidently. For the first time since he had come into their home, Bruce wasn't hiding. He wasn't running to find a safe corner or retreating into the shadows. Instead, he took off running, his body stretched out in pure joy as he dashed across the field. His paws lifted off the ground, his tail wagged with uncontainable excitement, and the joy he felt was palpable. The sight of him running freely, without fear, was nothing short of miraculous. Anna and Jack watched in awe as their once timid dog, who had lived in constant anxiety, now reveled in the space around him. As Bruce ran, he encountered other dogs at the park. At first, there was a brief moment of hesitation, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, but it quickly faded as he approached the friendly dogs with curiosity instead of fear. Bruce sniffed, wagged his tail, and even playfully darted around, joining in the games with the other dogs. His once rigid body now moved with fluidity and ease. He was no longer the dog that cowered in terror at the sight of others. He was participating, laughing in his own way, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life that most dogs take for granted. His bark, once a quiet and fearful sound, now rang out with joy and confidence as he played with his new friends. For Anna and Jack, watching Bruce embrace his new life was a deeply emotional experience. They had spent so long nurturing him, helping him to trust again, but seeing him truly free, seeing him run, play, and engage with others without the cloud of fear that had once defined his existence, was a moment they would never forget. Tears welled up in Anna's eyes as she watched Bruce, now so full of life, running happily across the field. Jack's arm went around her, and they both stood silently, taking in the moment. This was what they had hoped for. This was the life Bruce deserved. He had finally found the peace and freedom that had been denied to him for so long. Bruce's transformation from a broken, frightened dog to one that could run freely and play with joy was a testament to the power of love, patience, and the unwavering belief that every soul deserves a second chance. Anna and Jack had given him that chance, and now, with each bound he took across the field, Bruce was showing them just how far he had come. This was no longer the dog who had been confined to a cage, who had lived in the shadows of his past. This was a dog who was alive, vibrant, and eager to embrace the world. The park had given Bruce more than just an open space to run. It had given him the opportunity to reclaim his life. With every joyful leap, every playful bark, he was not just healing physically, but emotionally as well. He was learning to trust again, to love again, and to find happiness in a world that had once seemed so cruel. Anna and Jack knew that this was just the beginning for Bruce. There would be more steps to take, more challenges to overcome, but this moment, this day at the park, was a powerful reminder of the incredible change that love can bring. Bruce had found his freedom, and in doing so, he had found a family who would love him unconditionally, forever. As the months passed, Bruce was no longer just a rescue dog. He had become an inseparable part of Anna and Jack's family. The transformation from a scared, lonely animal to a loving, joyful companion had been profound. Bruce was no longer hiding in the shadows or retreating at every sudden movement. Instead, he had found his place in the world, a place filled with love, safety, and belonging. The journey that had begun with so much uncertainty and fear had blossomed into something beautiful. Now, Bruce was not just a pet. He was a true member of their family, a constant companion in their lives. Everywhere Anna and Jack went, Bruce was by their side. Whether it was a weekend hike through the mountains, a trip to the beach, or just a walk around the neighborhood, Bruce was always there, eagerly wagging his tail and soaking in every moment. He had learned to trust again, and the bond between him and his family was unbreakable. The once fearful dog who had cowered in corners now thrived in the company of his new family, embracing every adventure and every quiet moment at home. His place on the couch beside Anna and Jack was no longer a symbol of his fear, but a testament to the trust and love he had found. One particularly peaceful afternoon, Anna and Jack sat together on the couch, sharing a quiet moment as the sun filtered through the windows. Bruce was curled up at their feet, his head resting on the cushions, basking in the warmth of the sunlight. The room was filled with a calm, contented silence, a stark contrast to the chaos and pain that had once defined Bruce's life. As the sun cast a soft glow over his fur, Bruce gently wagged his tail, his eyes half closed in peaceful relaxation. It was as if he had found his place, not just in the house, but in the world. His once tense body had relaxed into the softness of the moment, and the worries that had once clouded his eyes had melted away. For Anna and Jack, watching Bruce in this moment was nothing short of emotional. They remembered the terrified, mistrusting dog they had met months earlier, the dog who had been so afraid, so broken. And now here he was, content and peaceful, a symbol of the incredible journey of healing and love they had shared. They both felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that they had given Bruce the chance he so deserved. He had not only healed from the trauma of his past, but he had also become an integral part of their family, a companion whose presence filled their home with joy and love. As they sat together, the three of them, the family they had become, Anna and Jack exchanged a look of quiet gratitude. They knew that the road to get here had been long and filled with challenges, but it had been worth every moment. Bruce had come into their lives broken, but with time, patience, and unwavering love, he had become whole again. In this peaceful moment, they understood that love had the power to heal even the deepest wounds, and it was love that had brought them all together. Bruce had found his home, a place where he would never again have to worry about being abandoned, hurt, or left alone. He had found a family who loved him unconditionally, and in return, he had given them the gift of his trust and affection. It was a bond that would last a lifetime, one built on patience, understanding, and compassion. In that quiet afternoon, as they all basked in the warmth of the sun, Anna and Jack realized that their family was complete. Bruce was no longer a dog who had been abandoned and abused. He was a beloved member of their home, a symbol of the power of second chances and the incredible healing that can come from love. His story was a testament to the fact that no matter how dark a past may be, love and patience can lead to a bright, beautiful future. Bruce had found his home, and in doing so had given Anna and Jack more than they could ever have imagined, a loyal companion, a best friend, and a reminder of the beauty of second chances. Thank you for watching this powerful story of healing and love on Vale Marks. Bruce's journey is a reminder that no matter how painful our past may be, love has the power to transform us. As Maya Angelou beautifully put it, we all have the potential to be transformed by love, and Bruce's transformation is proof of that. If you found meaning in this story, leave us a comment and share your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe to Vale Marks so you won't miss out on more heartwarming stories. Your support, your subscriptions, help me keep creating videos that will inspire and touch hearts. Together we can make the world a kinder place, one story at a time.